Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. As we all know, the three elements of cost, material, labor and overheads, will be consisted in the cost structure of any type of organization, but their compositions can be little different. Some organizations may have more material cost than labor and overheads, and some organizations may have more labor cost than materials and overheads. Like that, any combination of these three will be definitely there in the cost structure of any organization. And definitely one of the most important elements of cost is labor also, and not only for manufacturing organizations, even in the service industry actually the labor constitutes a bigger component of cost compared with materials and overheads. So irrespective of the size and nature of the organization, definitely the labor cost is going to be there for every organization. Of course, depending upon the nature of the business, in some organizations this may be a very big component. In some other organizations it may not be that big component. For example, if some manufacturing industries are working with a lot of automated machineries, robots and all, very few people might be employed by them. Actually most of the work might be done by machines only. So such organizations will have more material cost and overheads, less labor cost. You can see some of the videos available online how the various products are manufactured, just for general knowledge. If you observe how these chips are manufactured or the cool drinks are manufactured, most of the job is done by machines only. Human beings will be almost very negligible in number. Means that organization will have material cost and overheads as major components, labor will be less. Imagine a bank or a software company or an education institution for that matter. So imagine these type of organizations, common thing in all of them is they are all service sector. There the major cost definitely is going to be labor cost, that is the money that is going to be paid by the organization to the people who are working within the organization. That's what we call it labor. Before we enter into this chapter, we need to be a little bit observant of certain facts. The word generally we use labor only referring to the blue collared workers, popularly called blue collared workers, in the sense small physical labor is the general sense that we use in the normal colloquial life. But here when we say labor, it does not mean only the physical labor, it is employees. That is why actually the chapter name also has been changed. Earlier it used to be called labor only directly, but now it doesn't sound good, because labor means people will have wrong imaginations. People will only think physical labor is the only labor. Not necessarily. Here basically what we are talking about is the employee cost. But popularly, since we are used to these three things, material labor overheads, we call it labor only here. So don't worry about the name. Labor cost or employee cost, both are same. So that is one point to be noted here. Different names might be used, but essence is what we should look at. So this chapter is about employee cost and direct expenses. There is nothing much about it. Basically employee cost. So what are the learning outcomes of this chapter? Let us quickly go through them before entering into the topics. First one, state the meaning and importance of labor cost in an organization. So we need to understand the importance of labor cost in an organization. Okay, definitely fine, we will do that. That is the first objective, let us say. That's a theoretical thing. Also, second one, discuss the attendance and payroll procedures. Once again, theoretical thing. And state the meaning and treatment of idle time and overtime cost. Theoretical also, little bit of calculations might be involved also here, but mostly it is also accounting thing, how the treatment should happen in relation to the cost of overtime or sometimes idle time. That is one more theoretical conceptual discussion in this chapter. But the next one is very important, that is computation of labor turnover or employee turnover. Of course, theoretically we need to know its meaning, reasons, methods, etc. But main thing for problems is measurement. So measurement of labor turnover, computation of labor turnover is definitely one of the important aspects in this chapter. So that is going to be one of the problems we can say. And what are the impacts of labor turnover on the cost? Cost impacts also we have to learn here. And not only that, problems wise, once again, numerical questions can be expected from the next point, that is discuss and apply various methods of remuneration and incentive system in the calculation of wages, bonus, etc. So there are various types of methods of remuneration or incentive systems. Using those systems, ultimately we need to calculate the total wages which are to be paid to the workers. Sometimes if at all there is any performance bonus, how to calculate that also we need to apply those methods for computation of remuneration. Of course, this efficiency rating procedures is generally a normal item. That's a generic theoretical discussion we can say. We don't need to worry about much about that. So that is all about theoretical aspects. See, mostly as far as the problems in this chapter are concerned, those are all covered. Particularly speaking, in a general way, if you want to just see the problems related points, only these two are there as problems. So computation of labor turnover and various methods of remuneration are the two crucial aspects when it comes to the numerical questions of this chapter. But the third category always will be there in costing, that is general category. Any question can be asked according to the details given in the question. We should be able to answer that. We cannot say, this is something new. It will be new. So any new question, but details will be given, of course. Question will have all the details. All that we need to do is, we have to use those details to find out whatever is asked in that question. So that general category will be there in almost all chapters of costing. Labor is also not an exception. So basically computation of labor turnover, applying incentive systems, computation of various wages and remuneration using some incentive system methods, and general questions like that. Questions can be expected from this chapter, numerically speaking. Theoretically, there is a lot of items. So many are there which are already listed here in the learning outcomes, including payroll procedures, including the efficiency rating procedures, treatment of idle time, overtime, etc. Like this, a lot of theoretical aspects are there. And as usual, we will not go through each and every line of the theoretical aspects. That is not required. But yes, definitely we should be able to answer the standard theory questions which are popularly asked in the examinations. So that is why at the end of the chapter, by the time we complete the chapter, we should be writing notes for some of the important theory questions. That will be there. But for that purpose, you need to generally go through the theoretical aspects and prepare your own notes. It is not possible to revise in the examinations before exam. It is not possible to revise quickly this all material. So that is why you need to definitely have your own notes for theoretical aspects. That should be always followed. So that is the overall structure of this chapter, which can be further summarized in this diagram also, which has been given like this. See, on a broader basis, what are all there? in any organization, what will be required in relation to the employees? Basically, the objective is employee cost control. Like any other costing method or costing element of cost, whatever it is, anywhere, ultimately the objective of costing is always two things. Always. One is cost ascertainment and one is cost control. Cost ascertainment is about computation of cost. That's what is there in the right category here. It is in the right side box what we are talking about. This is all the category of computation of employee cost, that is cost ascertainment, and this is cost control. So both are there. Like even in materials also the same will be there. Cost ascertainment, material cost ascertainment is about pricing of material receipts and sometimes the pricing of material issues. So naturally also as a result computation of the value of closing stock. So all of that is ascertainment part. Control part is different. Control part is inventory control mechanisms, systems, various types of methods which are followed. That is all in materials. Same way here also there will be certain control mechanisms and there will be ascertainment requirements also. So the ascertainment part is this, which is employee cost ascertainment, which includes the ascertainment of idle time cost, also overtime cost. So these are only just two special things other than the normal things. That's all. So these two things are going to be there anyway, and normally employee cost, how it has to be ascertained depending upon whatever the organization and the employees agree. So here there will be always a different type of dilemma. How the employer will pay to the employee? Simple answer is as he wishes. We cannot define that. We cannot define a structure for the employers here. That is not our business. Whatever they have agreed between themselves, that only they will pay like that. But for us, what is also important, in addition to how they actually pay the original wage payment and original salaries payment, in addition to that there is a possibility of idle time cost. In addition to that there is a possibility of overtime cost. That also we need to know. And sometimes not just the wage payment, even the incentives can also be paid. So when there is a possibility of incentives, how that incentives can be determined is another area. These are all cost ascertainment things related to employee cost. That is also there for our numerical discussion. But control is more of a theoretical item, except labor turnover, which is only a method of ascertaining how the labor or employees are moving, coming into the organization and going out of the organization. So that's only a measurement of that. So we'll come to the labor turnover part later. That is the only thing which is we can say numerical in nature there. Other than that, this attendance and payroll procedures or this efficiency rating procedures, these things are all just theoretical items which we will broadly discuss, and then you have to write your own notes summarizing the key points so that we will be able to answer theory questions also if asked in the examination. These are the main items in this chapter, that is labor or employee cost. So once again, to summarize it, problems will be majorly between these two things. These are the two things where problems can be expected. One is labor turnover and the other one is wage payment and incentive systems. These two areas problems can be expected. Remaining areas are mostly theoretical in nature. Idle time, overtime, if computation is asked, we will do that. But mostly that is also counting item. How it should be treated is the important aspect in that area. So this is the essence of it. Attendance, payroll procedures, these are all purely theoretical. So we don't have to be too interested or involved in that. These are all the things that happen in the real life outside world. But the problem particularly with this is, actually when we talk about materials, at least there is some standardization which the organizations follow. Let us say if you talk about ABC analysis, Yes, a lot of organizations can use ABC analysis. Let us say we say economic ordering quantity. The technique is used by many organizations. Same way, if we say just-in-time methodology, if not all, but some of the organizations will use that also, just-in-time methodology. But those are all popular in the world. So whatever we actually learn in the theoretical aspects of materials, more or less, is the same when it comes to the reality, when it comes to the outside world. In the organizations, are they going to be followed? Absolutely yes, no doubt about it. Whatever we learn in the materials chapter, most of that material procurement procedure, or even for that matter the material control mechanisms, inventory control mechanisms, everything is actually used in the outside world more or less in the same way. So the scientific way of materials management is what we have learned there. That is enough. That is what actually happens in the world also. There is nothing bigger than that which is required to be known. But when it comes to labor, there is a we can say scope difference here, because we learned something here, definitely attendance procedure, payroll procedure, something we learn here. Are they going to happen in the real life in the same way? Here the answer would be no. Why? Because this is only an indicative way of how the employees are organized, how the employees are generally kept within an organization. That is only to give an idea to you at a broader level. This chapter contains these things like attendance and payroll procedures. But we have to recognize the fact there is a whole lot of science behind this employee cost and employee management. For that, there is a HR, that is human resources management, is a big task, big faculty by itself. For example, if you look at the different branches in the MBA, one of the branches in the MBA is human resources management. So somebody will be a marketing management, they will choose somebody will choose human resources management. Like that, human resources management is a huge thing that has a separate specialization. It has a separate course itself. So a lot of people in the human resources departments of the companies, mostly definitely MBA, HR, those will be already those would have studied this the employee management in a much bigger level. So what happens? What they actually implement in the real life will be much different than what we learn here. We are learning very basic things. I would say outdated things also actually. That is absolutely wrong. There should not be any I would say misconception that these things are exactly going to be applied in the outside world. Materials, mostly yes. Materials is almost whatever we learned is already something that happens in the world, which is already internationally proven methodologies. There is nothing specialization about MBA materials is not there, but MBA HR is there. That itself shows human resources management is a big specialization compared to the materials management. Why? Naturally, materials are just lifeless entities. Human resources, the employees are human beings with life, and it's difficult, it's not easy to manage those many employees. That is why it requires a lot of specialized approach. That is the reason there is a human resources management as a separate faculty, and huge number of human resources managers in the country and throughout the world would have specialized in that. So the point what I want to make is, whatever we learn in materials is almost enough in the real life also. Nothing new will be much there. There will be sophistication, will always be there, but we can relate it to what we learned in the classroom atmosphere or bookish knowledge. We can relate there. In the case of labor, that is what is little bit missing. So what we learn here is a very primitive, outdated, old nonsense. But what we can do? That is what is there. If that is given to us, we have to read that only. This is definitely not the modern HR management. There are hundreds and hundreds of new methods, lot of improvements and lot of development happened in that field. We are not doing MBA HR. It is only after all one chapter for us here. For that we don't need to really become human resources experts here. So we just need to know broadly what is the conceptual level requirement of all this human resources management or employee management, personal management, whatever we can call it. So that limitation we have to understand is what my point is. So what is the labor cost and what is the importance of this? Let us first start. Naturally, of course, for any organization, like materials, like machinery, like money, men also are required. So that's what popularly people call it 5 M's. It can be extended also, whatever the M's we can add. Only for general and understanding purposes, there can be different M's. So what are those different M's? One is materials, then we have machinery, of course, money, and methods and men. So materials, men, both are there. That's what we call material labor. Materials, men, machinery, methods and money. These are the resources which are required by any organization. You can relate to any organization. Some materials definitely they will use. Maybe lesser, maybe more. But definitely materials would be required. Definitely there will be men who are required to be working. Once again, men here don't take it gender wise, because to suit our M thing we are taken men. If it was W where we started, we would have taken women also. So there is no gender discrimination. It is only to refer to the human resources we are using that word. So materials will be required, men will be required, definitely. Labor, that is employees, definitely will be required. Machineries, whatever small or big, definitely will be required. Money, of course, we know how important it is. And methods. Methods means that is the way the organization is managed. That also will be one of the very important resources for any organization. And that is why there is a separate specialization for almost each of them. Of course, we are not going to do specialization in HR here. That is not our job. For that purpose, there is MBA HR. That's a separate faculty by itself. For us, definitely money is going to be the core factor. We are going to be, at least by the end of completion of chartered accountancy, experts of handling the money related matters. That's what is financial management all about. Methods to some extent, not much, but to some extent. But men and materials and machines, we just need to know the basics. We cannot say, I don't know. We need to at least know the basics, how they will be in the real world. So naturally the labor part, employee part also definitely will be very important for any organization. But we can call it in different ways. So you don't need to really worry about that. We can call that human resources, or you can call them as workers, or whatever the names we give them. So we can call them as workers sometimes, call them employees, laborers, staff, personnel. So many names are there. So whatever the name we use doesn't matter. Basically what we are talking about is the employees, the people who are working in an organization is our interest area here. And naturally, because they are working for the organization, they have to be paid some money, and that's what we call as wages, salaries, or remuneration, whatever the name we give. Again, name doesn't matter here, the substance matters. So that's what we call in simple terms as employee cost, or we can call it as labor cost also. So whatever the way it is, we can call it as employee cost or labor cost. So what does it include? This employee cost or the labor cost. So whatever we are calling it here as employee cost or labor cost, what does it include? That will include many things. That can include wages, that can include bonus, salary, incentives, etc., etc. Whatever the name we call, all these things are included in the employee cost, which is an expenditure to the organization. And of course, they have to be charged to a cost object as a labor cost. That's what we call labor cost also. How to charge that? That again depends upon the type of the organization. For example, if the labor cost is paid in order to perform a particular job, then that labor cost will be charged to that job. If labor cost is involved in the manufacturing process of an organization, that will be part of the direct expenses, direct cost. So that will also be part of the prime cost. We know that. So how it will be charged, where it will be accounted for, that is a different story. But definitely it is going to be accounted for, definitely that plays a crucial role in the organizations. That's what we should understand. But what is the difference between other costs and this? The simple difference is that this cost, this employee costs, is influenced by human behavior. So all other things like materials and all, we don't have humans involved in that. So here we have human behavior that matters. So that is one of the unique features we can say of this chapter. Though we are not going to become psychologists, we are not going to become HR managers after this chapter. We just understand things which out of interest, how they will work in the organization, we can understand. That's all. Not to be too deep diving into the subject of human behavior is a huge thing what we are talking. And the subject of human resources also, as I said, is a huge thing. We don't need really to go into the depth of all those things. We just touch them enough. Surface, if you touch the surface, that is more than enough. But whatever is given in the textbook, definitely questions can be asked on that. That is why we need to be able to write a short note for various items. So that skill we definitely need to develop. Other than that, remaining things are mostly generic as far as this chapter is concerned. It is not even as much technical as materials. It is less technical than materials, because this is more of people and human behavior we are talking. So people will be having different uniquenesses. They will have peculiarities. They will have divergence. Definitely different things will be there, and all the people will not be paid in the same manner. They will have different employee compensation methods, and different industries also will behave differently. All are employees only, all are laborers only. Actually speaking, there is not of difference. For a construction contract, imagine if construction labor are going, they will be going in very small transportation methods like trucks and all. Means they will not be behaving very posh. Maybe actually they might earn more than a fresh software employee, but still that is how they are treated. But the software employees, even though they are just freshly recruited, they go in cars, or they go in cabs, or they go on their own vehicles. They go well dressed and all that, at least. So the point is, there will be a lot of difference in the way people are organized, the way people are paid, and the way people are treated. There will be a lot of difference in different industries. That is one of the practical things that we can generally observe. Usually if you look at a person in a particular field, there will be a decorum for him. So if you go to a bank, mostly how the employees will look like, there will be a similarity in them. If you go to a software company, there will be a similarity in them. Like that, depending upon the type of the industry, depending upon the nature of the job what they do, people will have a lot of peculiarities, lot of differences in their behavior, and not only that, even in their compensation also there will be a lot of difference. That is a point to be noted. And just determining the wages is not that easy. Materials at least is okay comparatively. Why? Because it has a market. You can compare the different sources, suppliers and all that. If you want to buy a material, you can ask for quotations. 2-3 suppliers will send their quotations. Whichever is cheaper, you can choose. That is relatively easier. But what about labor? How the workers have to be appointed, how the employees have to be recruited. Big task, huge task, very difficult. Most of the organizations face a lot of difficulties in that, in spite of having so much of qualified human resource managers. That will tell what is the importance of this segment and the, I would say, complication involved in this particular segment. But yeah, good news is we don't need to be really worried about those complications, because it is not our scope. But what we should know is this wages determination is not that easy, it is not going to just happen like materials by taking 2 suppliers. It's not possible. So there has to be a lot of factors considered, many of them, both quantitative as well as qualitative factors, including volume of work, what are the skills required, what are the qualifications required. All these things will have an impact on the determination of wages. Naturally, imagine, like, let us say for a particular job, accounting job is there. For that job, a BCom graduate is recruited, and if at all he has to be paid, definitely he will be paid a certain amount of compensation according to the job he performs. But what about If a qualified chartered accountant is recruited, definitely he has to be paid more. So because of the qualification, because of the quality of the work they do, the skills that are required for the job, which the employee can bring into the organization, all these matters will have their own impact. Both quantitative and qualitative factors will have an impact on the wage determination. So once again, what it makes it very complicated to actually determine the wages. And for us, the good news is we don't need to really determine the wages. Whatever information is given in the question, all the great job we need to do is little bit of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Other than that, we are not going to do any great job here. The real toughness is in fixing the wages. The real toughness is in determining how much to be paid for a particular job or for a particular person. That is challenging in the real world. But anyway, we are not going to do that. Let us leave it to HR people. That is human resources people. I'm going to call it HR lot of times. So HR always means here human resources. There is a generally separate department for it in many organizations, and they will take care of the employees of the organization in many manners. So the point here is the wage payment or incentive payment is not going to be that easy as we are going to look at here. A lot of complications will be there, but in spite of that, we should know how that measurement has to happen, and whether the compensation is appropriate or not. So like that, efficiency and effectiveness of the desired output is there or not. All these things, theoretically at least, we should know what factors have to be looked at in the organizations so that there is a proper wage system. So wage system should be first of all in the place which is supposed to be fair and just, and accordingly it should be giving positive results. What is the positive result? Finally it is the efficiency and effectiveness. So that is how wage systems are to be also designed and understood. So we are not going to design anything, that is way beyond our level. We just are going to know certain terminology related to this field and certain things what happen in the actual organizations. That too, not all of them. Once again, we have to always understand the limitation of this chapter. These are not rules, these are not some standard procedures. These are only for general understanding. That's all. Actually, in the real world, the work being done there is much bigger, much complicated, and much more scientific also than what we are learning. So we are only just learning what is there in front of us because it is our job, nothing more than that. Clear? So what is the components generally of the employee cost? What can we say? The components of employee cost, or what are all the various constituents of the employee costs? So naturally these will be the various things which are all the components of employee cost. Like what? Wages and salaries. What are the name called? So here names do not matter much. Allowances, whatever they are called. Incentives. Incentives are generally given for the better performance of the employees. Overtime, as the name indicates, if the employee works for more time than he is supposed to work, that is overtime. For that, if any payment is made extra, that is called overtime. Like that. Employer's contribution to the provident fund, other and any other welfare funds, that is also part of the wages cost to the organization. That is also part of the income that is earned by the employee as well. So here, that also is part of the employee cost. Like this, many items will be there. See, we cannot define that, actually speaking. So many benefits the employer can give their employees. Whatever they are giving, what are those we identify in a problem. But these are the only benefits they should give, that we cannot tell. But in general, majorly, these are the things which employer might give to the employees. Like wages and salaries anyway is basic. Allowances may be given for some purposes. Incentives may be given for encouragement. Overtime generally is given as a part of law. Also, it is compulsory, particularly for physical labor workers. If they are working overtime, they are supposed to be given overtime premium. So the company's factories cannot violate that law. But even if there is no law also, it is fair to give overtime premium or overtime payment for the employees who are working more number of hours than what they are required to work. Like this, PF contributions are also there. Leave with pay can be there, or free food can be provided by employer to employee. or sometimes subsidized food can be provided, leave travel concession. Like this, many facilities can be given by employer to the employee. Ultimately, all of them are part of the labor cost to the employer. Of course, the other side of this is employee. For him, there will be benefits, that will be income. And another point also to be noted is, when we look at two sides of the coin, we should be clearly noting which side of the coin we are looking at. If we are looking at, for example, salaries as a chapter, as a head of income in the income tax, we are looking at the employee side there. But that too within the limitations of law, that is Income Tax Act, not according to our whims and fancies. But here, when we talk about employee cost, we are not looking from employee point of view, we are looking from employer point of view, from the organization's point of view, from the factory, company, whatever the name you call. From that point of view we are looking at. Means this is a cost. That was an income. This is the cost. Both are same. But for one party that is an income, for the other party same thing is cost. So that's what we are talking about here. So what are all the constituents of the employee cost? Anything that the employer gives to employee is naturally included in the employee cost. Then we can classify the labor cost. Let us call it labor cost. Every time employees, employer, employee. Anyway, those are all required things in taxation. In costing, we can just call it labor. That is not a bad word. It is a good thing. A lot of times, some people use labor as a bad word, but that is absolutely rubbish. Wrong also actually. Labor is the most beautiful thing, without which nobody can live. So that is not a negative word at all. That's a good thing. Without somebody doing some labor, without somebody doing some work, we cannot exist. So that consciousness we should have. Same with us also. Whatever we do for others, that is also labor. So the point is, that's not a bad word. Don't think in that way. It's a fantastic thing. It is a boon, not a curse. So that is labor cost, whatever we are talking about, labor. So labor cost contains what? Naturally, like any other cost, here also we can classify it into direct and indirect. So direct cost and indirect cost. What is the difference between them is given here already. And we know already generally for what are the differences between direct and indirect costs. Anyway, here particularly for direct labor cost and indirect labor cost, what are the differences are given here. So how to identify direct cost? Naturally, when the amounts are paid to the employees who are directly engaged in the production process. So they are directly engaged in the production process, means that is what we call it direct cost. Naturally, the cost incurred for payment of employee who are not directly engaged, these people are not directly engaged, then that becomes indirect cost. Naturally, the name itself indicates. And usually the direct employee cost can be easily identified and allocated, whereas indirect employee cost cannot be identified. It has to be apportioned on some appropriate basis. So that is the indirect cost. Indirect cost, any indirect cost actually is overheads, and that is the subject matter of topic, overheads. We are not going to do it now here, but we are just going to know that indirect cost cannot be easily identified and allocated to a cost unit. Rather, it has to be apportioned, whereas direct cost can be easily identified also, and it can be easily allocated also. That's what happens in case of direct cost. Indirect cost, not possible. It has to be only apportioned. Then direct cost generally is a variable cost. Variable cost, direct employee cost, direct labor cost is always variable cost. All direct costs are variable cost. Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, all are variable costs. Because of that, they vary with the volume of production. Means they have a positive relationship with the volume of production, means nothing but number of units. Or you can call that level of activity. Either way, that is directly related to the volume. So there is a positive relationship here between the direct labor cost and volume, because it is a variable cost. It may not, here indirect labor employee cost may not vary with the volume of production. So there is no rule that indirect labor cost has to be also variable. It might be variable also, by the way. It might be fixed also, possible. So may or may not vary with the volume of production, that is indirect cost. So this is a broad classification of direct and indirect labor costs. Direct costs are those always which can be directly associated with the production process, which can be identified clearly with the production process. Those are all direct costs. Same with direct labor cost also. Indirect costs are not possible to be associated with the production process, so that is why they are called indirect costs, and indirect costs will be always apportioned, not identified. So apportionment, how it has to be done, that is the subject matter of chapter of overheads, because whenever we say indirect, all of that is overheads. So when we talk about labor here in this chapter, unless otherwise stated, what are we talking about? We are talking about mostly direct labor, but not indirect labor. Ascertainment wise, we may do both, but identification wise, it is only going to be mostly happening related to direct labor, not much about indirect labor, because indirect expenses, whatever they are all part of overheads, which is a separate topic altogether, right? So that is about basic understanding of labor and classification of labor cost. We'll conclude it today with this basic introduction to the chapter of labor, and we'll continue this discussion in the next session, where we'll understand various procedures that will be there in the organizations for the overall employee cost control. What happens there? We'll continue this discussion in a little bit detailed manner in the next session. Till that time, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.